This is episode number 14 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our four pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started.
What's good, fam? Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast, episode 14. Damn.
So, yeah.
Every time, man. Every time. I'm just like, already?
It's going fast,
Already? Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Mike Anders here with my man, Jeff Thornton.
What up, what up?
And we're here to blow your mind with some recovery tips today. Been playing with a lot of different methodologies as of late, probably over the last 6 months, and kind of want to share with you my experience with it all. And I know, Jeff, you just saw Marie have thumbs, will travel. We'll have her on the show at some point as well. She's awesome. She's a little firecracker, and she blew your mind last night with your first session.
Yeah, she's good.
Well, what were your takeaways from your experience with Marie, man?
Man, it was quick actually. So it was just like a passing conversation before I started the WOD at 7. And I was just I was sitting there, man. I was like, Marie, I need to come. I know I've been talking to you for a little bit. I need to really come by and get a full session and pay for a session.
Yeah.
And I was like, because my shoulder's been jacked, man. And she's like, let me see your arm. And she just grabs it. And this is like 5 minutes before the workout starts. And she's like, your shoulder, right? And I was like, yeah. And she just like grabs my bicep. And she's like, that's what it is, like the lower bicep. And like pushes like this. She's like, it's a golf ball. It's hard as a rock. And she starts explaining like the top guys, the European lifters, their muscles are as smooth as butter. She's like, you're not supposed to feel any tension.
No knots
or anything. Mm-hmm. And she's like, if you think about it, when you have these knots, it's already contracted. So you're not getting full extension, or you're not getting the power that you should be getting from your muscle. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, I didn't think of it like that. I was like, I thought I was just knotted up because I was big. I was getting yoked, right? But man, it opened my eyes to something new, because I was like, I didn't know my body was so far out of whack.
So bound up.
Yeah. And I'm definitely taking a session
Sure.
Saturday, a full session. And
Okay.
I was just within 5 minutes, she was able to make my shoulder feel worlds better. I had better mobility.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, it's just like the pain went away. And I was like, just 5 minutes did that?
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
Imagine what an hour will do.
I know, right?
Yeah. I see you every Tuesday, man. Yeah, it's it's interesting once you really dive into some of those therapeutic modalities, especially tissue work. Mm-hmm. This is where you really discover how everything is connected. You might feel pain or restriction in one area, but it could be at the opposite side or the complete other end of your body. Mm-hmm. That's actually the cause. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't understand that a lot of their dysfunction in squatting doesn't have anything to do with their hips, but maybe it's their ankles,
right?
Or their inability to press has everything to do with their lats. And stuff like that. And when you really get into tissue work and you start to free all that stuff up, it's like, oh my God, it really is connected.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And Marie is very, very good at diagnosing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And we just brought on a new physical therapist, Matt Zanis. Solid dude. He's worked with everybody from the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Steelers, he got his doctorate from Duke. So he's a really dumb guy, No, just kidding. You don't go to Duke and
that's
play stupid. No, but really solid dude, avid CrossFitter. So that's kind of the lens that he approaches therapy from. And he introduced me to my first dry needling experience.
How was that?
The other day, and it was really interesting. For those of you that don't know, I've got my entire back done with ink, so I'm no stranger to needles. And so he has me, uh, he, goes through this full diagnostic, and you know, uh, where I thought I had a front to back imbalance, it's really a left to right imbalance, where I have very limited internal rotation in my left hip and very limited external rotation in my right hip as a byproduct of these two knee surgeries. That's how I compensate, right? And all that stuff going on down bottom has manifested in low back pain and chronic tension in my lumbar erectors. And so we run through this diagnostic, and he has me lay on my back, and wraps his hands around my knees, and he said, "Okay, now I want you to pull your legs apart against my arms, and my sacral junction."
Mm-hmm.
So there's this piece of cartilage between that connects your hips at the bottom and in the back. And when I pulled my knees apart, that thing popped.
No way.
And I was like, "Holy shit, what the fuck was that?" And he's like, "Well, now your hips are realigned." And I was like, "Oh." I mean, it was just, it scared the shit out of me because I didn't see it coming. And at the same time, the relief that I felt almost immediately was incredible. So then he flips me over on my back and starts putting the needles in. And, he does this extra sexy electric stem with the treatment. So once these needles are in you, he lets them marinate for a little bit, and he does a little manipulation with the needles to get the muscle to relax and respond and all that kind of good stuff. And then he hooks you up to this stem machine and starts making the muscle relax and contract involuntarily. And afterwards, I was a little sore from obviously where I was being poked and prodded, but in terms of like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where I was constantly tight at a 10 and completely relaxed at 1, I'm probably walking around on most days at about a 7. And I woke up the next day at like a 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And the mobility in and out of my squat, in the following days was great. And it was definitely a very enlightening experience, and definitely something I'm gonna incorporate into my practice on a more regular basis, because I'd heard nothing but awesome things about it. And there's a huge difference between dry needle and acupuncture. I won't speak to it because I'm not a pro. We'll have Dr. Matt on the show to speak to the difference, so he can not sound like an idiot explaining it. But yeah, don't call dry needle acupuncture and vice versa. Those are two. I guess they have two very different professional perspectives on how the treatment actually goes.
That's interesting.
But it was awesome. And Matt sitting there using all these $5,000 words that I love because I'm such a muscle nerd, and really knows his stuff. But on top of that, we brought cryotherapy to the scene back in March, and that has been extremely beneficial from an anti-inflammatory standpoint. And joint recovery has been a major issue for me for such a long time. It's quick, it's easy, and it's very non-invasive. It doesn't require the commitment or the mindset of an ice bath where, you're submerging yourself in ice cubes for, 20 to 30 minutes, and, you just have to suffer for the first 5 before your body goes numb and just let nature take its course.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I love about cryo is you get in dry, you come out dry, and it's only a 3-minute process.
That's cool.
And, what it ultimately feels like is if, on a cold winter day, you ran outside in your underwear to check the mail and came back inside. It's literally that fast and, doesn't feel that bad, even though the temperatures get down to, south of negative 300 degrees. It's just pushing vapor around your body. So you're not like in direct contact with the cold the way you would be in an ice bath, and, my injury history is quite extensive compared to most people. 2 ACL reconstructions, a partially torn LCL, AC separations in both shoulders, and a dehydrated disc in my lower back.
Good Lord.
And, to the point now where if I stop training, all of that stuff only gets worse, so anything that I can introduce and sustain that will allow me to continue to train the way that I train and enjoy training, I'm all about. I'll try it at least once.
I'm with you on that.
I'm
with you on that. See, I haven't done all the stuff that you were mentioning, like cryotherapy and the dried needling. I need to jump on that. But I remember in high school, I had, remember those that neck exercise where it looks like, I call it Hannibal Lecter. You put this harness over your head.
Oh, yeah.
You hang the weight and you're trying
all
to
the wrestlers are all about that, man.
You're trying to build a bigger neck.
Yeah.
So we did that in high school, man. And being a dumb kid, you load up the weight with heavy, like 45-pound plates, and our coaches weren't knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
So when we end up doing those, and I end up the lordotic kyphotic curve of your back,
right.
Mm-hmm. So the neck goes forward, I believe. The curve is forward.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up pushing the forward where it tilts backwards. So it goes back like a hump, like if you imagine like a camel's back.
Right.
And my neck was doing that, and I had the worst headaches on the left side of my head. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, how the hell did I get these headaches?
Mm-hmm.
So then I experienced, like, we had this anatomy class with Coach Bryant.
Sure.
And he starts mentioning chiropractic. He's like, once you go to a chiropractor, it clears up your sinuses. Like, the more in line your back is, your body will eventually heal itself because.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, well, it sounds like a good concept or whatever.
Right.
And at the time, I'm having these issues. I'm like, you know what? I might have to try the chiropractic for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there, first session. He diagnosed it, popped my back into place. My nose was stuffy when I went. Popped it back in place almost instantaneously. The headache went away. Okay. Boom. My nose cleared up.
Sure.
Perfect breathing. And then the time period after that, I never had those headaches for an extended period. Then you play football, you get out of a line, headaches come back. But that was my first experience to actually not taking prescription drugs per se, as far as like everything was like, you have a headache, pop ibuprofen, do this, take migraine, and none of that stuff helped. So that was my first experience of going to other paths of healing.
Sure.
And I also found out that process too is maybe these headaches came from tension, and I had to massage the bottom of my feet of all places when I thought.
Right.
So you roll your ball on those exercise balls, those racket balls.
Lacrosse balls?
Lacrosse balls, yeah, excuse me, lacrosse balls. And that relieves the headaches that I was experiencing as well. And I was sitting there at a young age, I was like, who would think like rolling your foot would, relieve all this pain, even in your lower back to mention, but even a headache. And that sort of changed my mind to where now I don't even take any type of like ibuprofens or anything. I just try to find the best way, what would you call it? Holistic path.
Naturopathic. Yeah.
I would find the holistic naturopathic path now to get my body back to where it needs to be. And that's why I'm so interested in, like you said, what Marie was talking about. Massages, chiropractic, cryo. Those are just topics that interest the hell out of me, man, because I've seen them just do so much.
Oh, yeah. I mean, chiropractic's huge. We got Dr. Hannah and Dr. Mike on board. Dr. Mike has his practice at Valley Spinal Care up north off of 52nd and Bell. And Dr. Hannah is actually right down the street at Dr. Turley's clinic from CrossFit PHX. And both of them have worked wonders, because we constantly load and compress the spinal column, just from resistance training altogether, not to mention the high impact, high volume body weight stuff that we do as well, whether it's box jumps or handstand push-ups, all of that stuff, over time creates a lot of wear and tear. Running creates a lot of wear and tear, and everything, comes back to alignment, you know. And depending on what kind of muscular imbalances you may have, the out of balance tension that you may be pulling front to back, left to right, top to bottom across joints, once you start to shift out of balance, all that stuff again comes back to the center. So if you stand on your right leg more than you do your left, or for competitive athletes, basketball players, if your drive leg is your right leg, you're doing way more work more often on your right leg than you are the left. So just as a natural byproduct of life, we're creating these imbalances, and it's just a good idea from a maintenance perspective to go in, get adjusted, and just try to maintain as much of that balance as possible to counteract, the stuff the stresses that we put on the body, just waking up and breathing every day.
Right.
Maintenance is so huge, and a lot of those modalities are great, especially for those of us that train at a high intensity, or just train a lot. That stuff is extremely important. Like you were saying, going back to Marie and massage therapy, getting all that tissue worked out, it's extremely important, because now you're decreasing the tension, the pull that you have across structures. And you'd be amazed, like you were saying, how much some of that relief plays into migraines and tension headaches and all that other kind of good stuff, just from being bound up. And we're not even talking about anything as extensive as the byproduct of training. We're just talking about stress. You know what I mean? If you have a lot of stuff on your mind, just a very natural subconscious mechanism of dealing with that is creating tension in static positions. And what that ultimately leads to is the bounding up and the knotting of fascial tissues on muscular structures, which can lead to nerve impingement, lack of mobility, chronic pain. So getting those tissues ironed out from time to time is a great idea, just so that you can be relaxed to the fullest extent possible. Not to mention all that shit just puts me to sleep.
Yeah,
So
it's comfortable as heck, isn't it?
I'll use any excuse to take a nap.
What do you think about I know it's come up more recently because you see it in the Olympics now. It's on a recognized platform, but the cupping.
Love it.
You
love it. Oh yeah.
How do you really feel on it? I've never tried it.
So for me, cupping is a great way, again, to relieve some of that latent muscular tension that I have every once in a while. But also, it helps pull a lot of the toxins out of those targeted tissues.
I've heard that.
And so not only is it a great way to free up tension, increase mobility, and do a lot of the functional stuff, but it's also can assist as a minor detox as well.
Huh.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So they say, and when we have Dr. Mike on, he'll speak to this as well. And Dr. Matt does cupping as well. When after a treatment, the darker an area is, the more stress is being held in that area, either as a byproduct of tension, toxicity, whatever. So, so if you're getting cupping and, you're turning dark purple, you got some issues.
Right.
You know, if you're like a light pink, you know what I mean? You're better than most.
Uh-huh.
You know, and like those shades everywhere in between are gonna differ depending on, you know, what tissues, what areas of the body are actually being cupped.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then you got Graston or gua sha.
Where they're scraping.
Yeah.
That's some crazy
Dude,
looking
I
stuff.
saw the most aggressive video on Facebook the other day. It was you know, some Chinese Federation weightlifting camp, and this dude was this therapist was just going to work on this cat's back, and I mean he was just scraping it raw. And you want to talk about a whole nother level of pain? Uh, get that shit done by somebody who doesn't give a damn, who is all about making you better, and you know, completely disregards how you feel in the moment. It's painful, man.
You've done it?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Getting stripped. And we've done it, you know, a little bit with you know, some barbell work and just laying you know, a heavier inanimate object across a knot, you know, is a great way to just kind of free up knotted tissue. But when you look at Graston and using those implements to scrape out your, it's a great way to relieve scar tissue, and you know, unbind that fascial tissue around muscle. It's intense.
It looks intense.
You know, and you gotta be down for the cause, I would say. Is it worthwhile? Absolutely, but it's extremely uncomfortable. So I wouldn't say that one's for everybody. I mean, it's for everybody, but it's not for everybody. You know what I mean? And but I'm just, I live my life as a human experiment, you know, and exposing yourself to all these different modalities, you really figure out which ones do the trick for you. Obviously, everybody's going to respond a little bit differently and have their preference as to which modality they favor over others. But you know, if you haven't gone out there and exposed yourself to all these different things, you're never really going to know. And I'm not a big fan of being reliant on people's opinions alone. You know what I mean? I want to, I'll take everything with a grain of salt, but I think experience is definitely worth way more than hearsay.
It's true.
Just because it's your body and not theirs.
Right.
You know?
Some people have different tolerance levels too compared to stuff. I think the part with the scraping, that I've seen it on YouTube. I've never actually done any of that stuff. But man, the doctor, he was explaining it to, it was Steve Cook. I don't know if you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was
I love Steve.
He was doing it on Steve Cook, man. And he's just like talking about like he used some type of shell or something, some type of special instrument. And as he's pushing the blood out, essentially, he was explaining the process. And the dude's he's crying, you know, and the doctor just continue to grind his hamstrings. And I know that he was talking about how your hamstrings hold the most tension, or like you said, your shoulders hold a lot of stress when you get bound, your hamstrings as well. And man, I was looking at that just from the outside looking in perspective. That I would try it, but I'm sort of fearful to try it because I just remember when I pulled my hammy, we had to do the deep tissue massage, and I had a heavy-handed therapist. And I mean, this guy, he played at Utah, the Utes.
Okay.
And he would just sit his elbow on the back of my hammy with that knot there, and just like, I'd just be in excruciating pain. And I just remember that feeling. I was like, if it feels anything like that, I don't know if I'm willing to go through that that again, man, because that is some pain, dude.
Dude, I mean, it could always be worse.
Yeah.
You know, in that same video that I was talking about earlier, this guy's laying on his back, and his coach is literally standing and marching on his hamstrings.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh my God, that looks like the most painful thing ever.
Yeah.
Then he flips him over and does the same thing on his quads, you know. I mean, this guy can't be less than 150 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, and he is just marching in step, you know,
Holy
in place
smokes.
on this man's quads. And I'm just like, I know how my quads feel on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I sure as hell wouldn't be able to handle that shit.
Oh, dude.
You know, and so I mean, obviously, just like fitness, all these things are scalable, to your tolerance level. But there's, the extremes of it, the Olympic
Mm-hmm.
level athletes and stuff like that, where that stuff is an absolute necessity to elicit maximal performance.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, for, average Joe off the street, it's good just to get the kinks out,
Yep.
and, to afford you a good night's sleep for, 4, 5, 6, 7 nights in a row,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not just like awake and you want to blame it on your mattress and, the chair that you sit in at work and, maybe you're overtraining. And while all that stuff, plays a role, there's things that you can do to counteract
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff as well. And it's a worthwhile investment of time and money periodically to just take some time out for yourself and invest in your body. And a lot of that stuff requires zero effort on your part. So I mean, just taking time out and taking an hour for yourself to take care of yourself is huge. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think enough people take advantage of that or make time for themselves in that respect.
It's true. Because I think the biggest time, and I haven't done it enough lately, so I'm in the same boat as a lot of people. It's where don't spend enough time on stretching or yoga. And when I spent time on that in college, my performance was worlds better than it is at this point because at the time it's just like the amount of flexibility and mobility that I had, my muscles could take anything. I didn't feel so rigid all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started even this week. That's my big thing. This week is like I have to start doing yoga twice a week and then start increasing it steadily, because aside from besides the treatments of cryo and stuff we were mentioning, stretching is huge, man. If you don't give your body that time to stretch and recover,
Mm-hmm.
the workouts aren't going to do much, man. Because a lot of time you think you just go into one of my bodybuilding days, you go and you lift and you just get out of there. I'm going to get big. But then when I started incorporating like stretching and yoga after workouts, that's when it gave my muscles time to actually grow true size.
Right.
It was in that recovery state.
Right.
And I mean, it's too often I think we dismiss stretching as a huge benefit. A lot of times we just look at let's hit the weights,
Right.
and people just really don't look at the recovery of stretching and yoga and those
Well,
types of things.
even Arnold back in the day was famous for that, man, talking about stretching for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I read it in, back in the day when I read the entire encyclopedia of bodybuilding cover to
It's a
cover
good book.
on a fucking treadmill getting ready for a show at 4 o'clock in the morning, man. It was so bad. That was before I figured it out.
Yeah.
And there's a passage in there where, in one of the millions of routines that are in this deal, between sets, these guys will sit and hold a static stretch, so like they'll get off the hamstring curl and just do a standing toe touch for a minute to 90 seconds before they hit the next set. So now you spent and then 12 to 20 reps maximally contracting a muscle, and then you spent 60 to 90 seconds at its maximal length.
Mm.
And what that does is, since it's already a working tissue and it's activated and innervated, you're doing two things. You're unbinding it, but you're also driving blood flow to it. So when you go to your next set, you're getting an even greater maximal contraction. So now you're getting the most out of every single rep
That's crazy.
using that methodology. And to your point, yoga is another therapeutic modality that people don't really take the time out for. So we brought it back. Jessica's actually starting our mobility class tonight at 7 after Oli. So definitely stop in and check that out. She's a huge addition to the gym. She's a pro at barbell and super passionate about mobility. So she's real excited to get that started for us. And so the vision is to have, all those modalities from a recovery standpoint available at the gym, so you don't have to outsource any of it. And, essentially that becomes a one-stop shop for performance. And if you can do that, I mean, not only will you live better, you'll sleep better, and you'll perform better. I mean, you're winning on all levels at that point.
I like that. I really like that.
So, if you're not taking the time out to assist with and expediting the recovery of your body, you can't really expect your performance to increase at the rate that you really want it to. If anything, you're really slowing yourself down. So it's not so much taking a day off, so to speak, from training. It's actually incorporating other therapeutic modalities that kind of expedite the recovery process that are really going to help you. So really hope that we shed some light on some things that you may or may not have been aware of. And you can find all that stuff at PHX now. And we have the connections and everything. And in the show notes, we'll put links to all these various practices so you can do a little bit of homework on your own and figure out what fits your fancy. And, by all means, rate the show. Let us know what you thought. And if there's any further information that you want about any of this stuff, please feel free to reach out to us at info@feedmefuelme.com. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can with any and all information that you may want about any of these topics. So, again, as always, thanks for letting us join you on your journey. And we hope that you're more enlightened after listening to this show. See you next time.
And that's a wrap, crew. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to check out the full show notes and get connected with us at feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to all of our social media on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We're looking forward to connecting with each and every one of you. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode and topics for future episodes as well. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by Josh Billings. Health is like money. We never have a true idea of its value until we lose it. Thank you again, and we will catch you on the next episode.